Let's get going. Good afternoon, everyone. This is the March 21st, 2022 Community Development Committee meeting for the Met Council. I'm the Chair, Robert Lilligren. Before I call the meeting to order, just a few things about how we'll conduct this meeting. For now, COVID-19 is continuing to cause us to alter our usual procedures. The Metropolitan Council Chair has determined it's not practical or prudent to conduct an in-person committee meeting at this time. Accordingly, the committee members will participate by electronic means or by phone for this Community Development Committee meeting. We're on WebEx. Members of the public will be able to monitor this meeting. You can go to the agenda at the Met Council website for the live stream. The video is embedded right at the website. And because committee members, because it's a virtual meeting, we'll call roll for each business item. And also, please just use the chat function only to address technical difficulties. If there's no questions at this time, I will call this meeting to order and we will take attendance by roll call to determine that we have a quorum. So, Michelle, please call the roll.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. I did receive advance notice that Councilmember Lee will not be able to participate today. And Councilmember Lindstrom might be a little late. So I'm going to start with Councilmember Chambliss.
Here.
Cummings.
Here.
Johnson.
Here.
Lilligren.
Here.
Lindstrom. Musset.
Here.
Vento.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. We are a quorum and can continue on with the agenda. The first item on our agenda is approval of the agenda. It's been posted at the Met Council website. If there are no objections or changes, we can move on to our business without a vote. Any changes to the agenda? Hearing none, our next item is approval of the minutes of the March 7th Community Development Committee meeting. Is there a motion to approve, please?
Wolf moves approval.
Thank you. Is there a second?
Vento seconds.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any additions or corrections or discussions on the minutes from the March 7th meeting? Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Chambliss.
Aye.
Cummings.
Aye.
Johnson.
Aye.
Lilligren.
Aye.
Musset.
Aye.
Vento.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That item carries, and we'll move on our agenda to our business items. We have 4 non-consent business items for consideration this evening. The first is item 2022-55. It's the Cleary Lake Regional Park Master Plan Amendment and Land Conversion that comes to us from the Three Rivers Park District. And it looks like Colin Kelly is here to present. Mr. Kelly, welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and council members. Can you hear me?
Yeah, good afternoon. Thanks. We can hear you.
Great. Thanks. I'm Colin Kelly, as was stated, planning analyst, and I'm here to present the Cleary Lake Regional Park Master Plan Amendment and Land Conversion on behalf of Three Rivers Park District. Next slide, please. Cleary Lake is located in the southwest part of the regional park system in Scott County. The proposed land conversion and the majority of the regional park is located in Credit River Township. The figures here are figures 1 and 2 in the staff report. The regional park is owned by Three Rivers Park District and is operated in partnership with Scott County. The existing master plan for the regional park was approved in 1998 and was amended in September 2021, as noted in the staff report. Next slide, please. As referenced, the Cleary Lake Master Plan was amended through business item number 2021-221 last fall. Today's business item is directly related to that plan amendment and associated land conversion. As you may recall, the focus of that plan amendment was a land conversion which proposed the removal of a small amount of land and the addition of a facility within the regional park. The figure on the right is figure 3 in the staff report. The land conversion allows the Scott County Highway Department to make improvements to the County State Aid Highway 27 corridor. This planned highway reconstruction is included in both Scott County's and Credit River Township's council-approved comprehensive plans. In exchange for this removal, Three Rivers proposed a channel stabilization project that addresses channel erosion, reduces excess sediment being carried into Cleary Lake, and addresses flooding that is impacting park infrastructure. Scott County would hold a permanent easement of 2.21 acres for the permanent road right-of-way and a temporary easement of 1.41 acres during construction of the roadway. That plan amendment and land conversion was approved by the council on September 22, 2021. Through the business item being considered today, Three Rivers is requesting release of an additional 0.09 acres of land for a drainage and utility easement to correct an error in the original design. The revised solution will allow for the drainage to meet Minnesota Pollution Control Agency's rate control and water quality requirements. This request would increase the total amount of permanent easement to be held by Scott County from 2.21 acres to 2.30 acres. The total value of the additional 0.09 acres of land and trees affected by the easement expansion is $1,620. Because the value is quite small, and the previously proposed mitigation is estimated to cost more than the amount identified in the previous proposal, Three Rivers proposes that this amount be applied to the same channel stabilization project that was previously approved in September. The table you see here is Table 1 in the staff report. Next slide, please. The Regional Parks Policy Plan details how such proposed land conversions are considered. Chapter 6, Strategy 2 states that lands in the regional park system will only be converted to other uses if approved by the Metropolitan Council through an equally valuable land or facility exchange. To determine whether regional park system lands may be exchanged for other land or facilities, the Regional Parks Policy Plan requires consideration of criteria relative to both the existing park system unit and the alternative use. The plan amendment states that the small land removal will not impact the ability of the park to continue to meet council standards for a regional park. These standards are outlined in Chapter 4, Strategy 1 of the Regional Parks Policy Plan. The small additional area required for drainage would have negligible impacts on recreation facilities and the environment. Further, there would be no increase in the amount of water conveyed to Cleary Lake than was originally planned. This solution is intended to resolve a design error and allow the system to function as originally intended. Next slide, please. Chapter 6, Strategy 2 also requires consideration of criteria relative to the alternative use. In this case, we're talking about an equally valuable facility where natural resource benefits are increased as a result of the exchange. As a reminder, the project proposed to stabilize 710 linear feet of channel and provide flood protection to an irrigation pump house. That channel delivers approximately 12 tons of suspended solids and over 2 pounds of phosphorus into Cleary Lake annually. The project will benefit the region by improving water quality, supporting recreational activities, and supporting stewardship of natural resources in the park and in the watershed. This, along with the ponding basins associated with the road project, are the first projects in the watershed district to help with load reduction toward meeting Cleary Lake's total maximum daily load, or TMDL. Without the channel stabilization project, erosion of sediment and nutrients into Cleary Lake would continue. Next slide, please. The Cleary Lake Regional Park Master Plan Amendment and land conversion is consistent with the requirements of the Regional Parks Policy Plan, and particularly Chapter 6, Strategy 2, and Chapter 4, Strategy 1, along with other council policies such as those in Thrive MSP 2040. Excuse me. Next slide, please. The proposed action before you then is that the Metropolitan Council, 1, approve the Cleary Lake Regional Park Master Plan Amendment and land conversion, and 2, approve the permanent release of the restrictive covenant on 0.09 acres of land within Cleary Lake Regional Park in exchange for a channel stabilization project in the regional park, approved by the Council in September 2021. I should note that the Metropolitan Parks and Open Space Commission approved the proposed action 7-1 at its meeting on March 3rd. And with that, I will stand for any comments or questions you may have. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Kelly, for the report and for your work on this. Committee members, any questions on that report? Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering if Mr. Kelly can tell us what the oppositional vote was or the nay vote at the impasse meeting.
Absolutely. Yeah, Mr. Chair and Councilmember Cummings. The nay was from our chair, Tony Russo, and he reiterated his concern that the channel stabilization project be considered a facility for the land exchange, which was something that he mentioned during the previous land conversion proposal back in September 2021. It's in some ways an expansion of the notion of a facility to a natural resource management project.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Further discussion on that report? Any further discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Kelly has proposed that we approve the Cleary Lake Regional Park Master Plan amendment and land conversion and approve the permanent release of the restrictive covenant. Is there a motion, please?
Wolf moves approval.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second?
Vento seconds.
Thank you. Any discussion on the motion? Discussion. Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Musset,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thanks, Michelle. That motion is adopted. We'll move on to our second business item of the day. It's 2022-75. It's approval of property for disposition for the Family Affordable Housing Program. And Stephanie Paulson is here to present. Welcome, Ms. Paulson.
Thank you, Chair Lilligren. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, we can.
Wonderful. Hello, council members. My name is Stephanie Paulson, and I am the Assistant Director at Metro HRA. And today I'm here to talk with you a little bit about the Family Affordable Housing Program, more specifically the disposition and potential acquisition down the road of some of our units. So I will go ahead and start. If we can move to the next slide, please, Greg. Thank you so much. So I'm going to start with some grounding information. The Family Affordable Housing Program was established in 1999, and we started with 150 units. We purchased those between 2001 and 2004. So our current portfolio exists in Anoka, Hennepin, and Ramsey counties, and we are in 11 suburban communities. Those cities are Blaine, Coon Rapids, Eden Prairie, Edina, Golden Valley, Maple Grove, Minnetonka, Plymouth, Richfield, Roseville, and Shoreview. Just as another reminder, the Family Affordable Housing Program was designed in part to help implement the 1995 Holman Consent Decree. The council assisted in the region's response to the lawsuit by developing these affordable housing opportunities in suburban locations. And the Metropolitan Council used federal dollars to acquire these affordable home units. State, local, and governments and other philanthropic organizations also help to provide some funding. Next slide, please. The next slide that you see here is a kind of a bar graph of what our current housing stock looks like. So you can see the blue is kind of like this twin home or duplex they're similar, but not exactly the same. Townhomes, which is the dark blue, and then single-family homes, which is the green. And the breakdown is we have 76 single-family home units, about 51%. And we have 65 of our units, or 43% of them, are in townhomes. It is important kind of to note that we are still working at the City of Edina Affordable Housing Partnership, and I plan to come to you, I believe, on the March or April 4th CDC meeting to give you some updates about that, just as an information item. So the single family home bar graph, that green, will grow another handful of units as we grow this Edina Affordable Housing Partnership. Our current townhome, our townhome portfolio exists in a number of associations. Next slide, please. 89%, so what you're going to see on this graph is that 89% of our portfolio is 2 or 3 bedroom units. In 2021, we have begun a formal review. Anytime we have a 2 or 3 bedroom unit turnover, we review to determine if within kind of the confines of the turn, we're able to add an extra bedroom to continue to address the needs of larger households or multi-generational households that live in our region, because affordable housing for larger households is certainly a need in the region. Currently, we have 67 2 bedrooms, 68 3 bedrooms, and 12 4 bedrooms. We have 3 5 bedrooms, but that was just until very recently. In 2021, we converted a 4 bedroom to a 5 bedroom. So prior to 2021, we only had 2 5 bedroom units. So as we run our family affordable housing program waitlist, those 4 and 5 bedroom eligible households, they do not come to those houses don't turn over as frequently, and so they sit on the family affordable housing program waitlist just a little bit longer. Next slide, please. What we're hoping to do with this rebalancing of our portfolio is to take a few things in mind, or some considerations. And those are resident success, location, and accessibility. So the council has not purchased or disposed of any units since their initial purchases, with the exception of this recent Edina Affordable Housing Partnership. So we're acquiring some properties, but since first initiating the program, we have not really changed any of our portfolio. And really, the council may determine from time to time that our portfolio, or a piece of real estate that we have, is no longer kind of serving the purpose of the portfolio, and we might just want to update it. It might be considered to be a surplus, and because of changing needs in the household or region, we just might want to update it from time to time, and that's what this is about. If we're thinking about these 3 pillars, this resident success and location and accessibility, there are a handful of things that I think are important for you all to know why we're bringing these pieces up, or these components up. Resident success. So for working families, this might look like wealth building, financial empowerment, home ownership. For persons with disabilities, this could look like housing stability and long-term investment in their community. Location. The units that we are formally recommending for disposition generally have more turnover because of location, or are sitting vacant for longer, just because as families come to visit the units, they have concerns about either size or general location. It's not near a highway or easy transportation, or it's a smaller 3 bedroom unit. And finally, accessibility. It is certainly on the radar of the Metro HRA as a unit. If we adopt this family affordable housing disposition and down the road acquisition policy, then we would be able to look at acquiring a unit that we could make fully accessible for persons with disabilities. So it is certainly something that we're starting to explore in ways that we could do this, and I think that that falls into that accessibility bucket. Next slide, please. So this next handful of slides, you're going to see the family affordable housing surplus properties. So these are the properties that we've identified that we would like you to just tell you a little bit about. There are 5 properties, all townhomes. 3 of which are in Eden Prairie. One is in Maple Grove and one is in Coon Rapids. You'll see that they are all 2 and 3 bedroom units, and the years that they were built are also available on this chart. Next slide, please. Townhome number 1 is in Eden Prairie, and I've just for data privacy purposes, I'm not listing the exact locations or the street addresses or anything, but just kind of giving some generic information. Townhome number 1 was built in 1997. It has 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It is 896 square feet. The purchase price was $129,000, and with the help of our wonderful real estate team, and they've kind of helped guide us through all of the real estate nuances along the way, they believe that if, based on their CMA or their market analysis, that we could list the property today for between $210,000 and $230,000. Next slide, please. All right, townhome number 2 was built in 1983. It is also 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms. It is 1,104 square feet with a purchase price of $142,000. And the estimated sales price, according to our real estate team at the council, is somewhere between $225,000 and $250,000. Next slide, please. Townhome number 3 was built in 1985. It is 3 bedrooms and 1 bathroom in Eden Prairie. It is 1,275 square feet. The purchase price was $140,000, and the estimated sales price would be between $230,000 and $260,000. I think it is kind of important to note too that when we asked for this certified market analysis to be run for us by the real estate department, this was in December of 2021 that they ran this for us, because we've really been trying to work through this process with our real estate team and legal and our other partners. And so these numbers could be slightly different just based on how quickly the market is turning right now. Next slide, please. Townhome number 4 is in Maple Grove. It was built in 1985, 2 bedrooms and 1 bathroom with just over 1,000 square feet. It was purchased for $125,000, and our real estate team believes that our estimated sales price would be $190,000 to $225,000. And then next slide, please, Greg. Townhome number 5 was built in 1988, 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms, 1,131 square feet with a purchase price of $136,000. And our real estate team believes this unit could sell for somewhere between $200,000 and $230,000. Thank you, Greg. In the short term, we have located 3 units that I will come to tell you about on April 4th through the Edina Affordable Housing Partnership. There are 2 single-family homes, and then 1 home is a duplex. It is a 3-bedroom unit. There we are currently a second 3-bedroom unit that we're currently working on renovations on to increase to a 5-bedroom unit. And the duplex has 3 bedrooms on both sides that we are considering and getting kind of construction renovation information about potentially adding a bedroom to one of those sides of the duplexes as well. So just something fun to share. When we're thinking about where we want to purchase outside of this Edina home partnership, because we've heard very loud and clear from our housing work group when we went and visited them a couple times, is that we want to make sure that we aren't losing any of our portfolio. So if we sell a unit, we want to ensure that we are still housing as many families as possible. So if we were to sell a unit, we would be quickly replacing it or replace it and then sell a unit, making sure that we're being really mindful of that. But we want to take into consideration when we're looking at properties to grow our portfolio in the event that we move forward with the disposition, is thinking about culturally specific amenities, thinking about public transportation and access to social services as needed, balancing our portfolio. So we have a lot of 2 bedrooms. Are we making sure that we have 3, 4, and 5 bedrooms? Those multi-generational households or those large households have access to units as well. And then accessibility. Are we able to look at considerations for persons with disabilities and find maybe a Rambler single level living that we would be able to fully convert to an accessible, persons with disabilities, a fully accessible unit? Next slide, please. So the proposed action before you would be that the Metropolitan Council authorize the disposition of currently 5 family affordable housing program units that no longer meet the needs and intent of the program, contingent upon the confirmation from funding partners that no repayment of funds or other financial penalties will be incurred as shown in the business item. Authorize its Community Development Division Executive Director to execute all agreements and documents required to complete the sale and disposition of the 5 properties. And finally, authorize its Community Development Division Executive Director to execute all agreements and documents required to complete the purchase of replacement properties. And with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you, Ms. Paulson. Very interesting. Committee members, questions or comments on that report? First, Councilmember Chambliss, then Councilmember Cummings. Councilmember Chambliss.
Thank you for that report. I'm glad I had a chance to weigh in at our housing work group meetings. And I'm really glad to hear that the emphasis on making sure that we can replace this housing is important. I do have a little bit of a concern about our current challenging housing market and how the rates are not, with the rates so low that the market values are so high. I don't know if we should be too quick to purchase given the market that we're in. So hopefully there's some consideration on the timing so that we can get the most value for the surplus money that remains after sale. Of course, it might make sense to do the sale now since you're probably going to get the best price, but maybe holding on to it for a while would make sense. That's just my thinking. Anyway, the other thing is that what we heard in prior meetings in terms of the challenges with these units, and I see that one item that was noted was the challenging association rules, and some of the information that we got, some of these association rules were challenging to the residents, and potentially some of the residents feeling somewhat harassed or having too many restrictions on them. So I think it's important to, document that and make sure that there is advocacy for residents so that they have an opportunity to stay in a home that they had to really kind of work hard to get through into the home. So let's keep that in mind and make sure that whatever we've learned about the need for housing advocacy, we can carry that forward, as well as whatever we have learned about transportation barriers wherever these new homes are located. I remember, the Holman Project. I didn't know that's what it was called. I just knew that a lot of people were moved from the projects, what we called the projects in North Minneapolis, into suburban areas where there was not access to transportation or jobs hardly at all. And companies were actually transporting their employees from their homes to their work until we got better bus service like out in Brooklyn Park. So I'm glad that we learned, and we're going to continue to learn on how to provide these opportunities going forward.
Thank you, Councilmember. I have in queue Councilmembers Cummings, then Johnson, then Mento. Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I have a couple of questions, but Stephanie, I lost you for a few minutes there and had to go out and come back in. So anyway, can you remind us again about how the partnership with Edina works? When I tuned back in, I thought you were saying something about money going into purchase of the homes in Edina. So can you remind us what the parameters of that program are first?
Sure. So the Edina Affordable Housing Partnership is a 25-year forgivable loan. And maybe the part that you missed was that we've purchased 3. We've closed on 1, and 1 is rented and a family is living there. And we have the second one that we have is currently being renovated. We're in the process of renovations or just starting getting bids from contractors to convert it from a 3-bedroom to a 5-bedroom because the basement was partially finished. And then the third unit that we purchased is a duplex with 3 bedrooms on both sides, and we're reviewing with a contractor and just cost and kind of a handful of other things if we should convert one of the sides of the duplex to a 4-bedroom. So maybe those are some of the Edina updates I provided, but I'll be coming back in April for a full kind of update, a comprehensive update and fun information to share about what's happening there.
Okay, and thank you for that. What is Edina's role in this partnership, Ben?
Edina, in this partnership, like this specific action that I'm here tonight for?
Yeah. I thought that they were using their funding in lieu to purchase the homes, but it sounds like we're purchasing the homes.
Yep, so these are kind of the Edina Affordable Housing Partnership is separate from what I'm here tonight for. Really, the purpose of me chatting about the Edina Affordable Housing Partnership was to talk about how we really haven't had much change in our portfolio other than the recent Edina Affordable Housing Partnership, where we've added 3 homes, but other than that, we've had the same housing portfolio since the program's inception.
Okay, thank you for that. A couple of questions then. I guess I'm wondering, early on in your presentation, you talked about how we were originally able to access additional funding through partnerships with philanthropic organizations, the state, and other partners. And I'm wondering if we pursue those partnerships, or maybe new ones that have developed since our initial ones, in purchasing, since everyone seems to be all in on finding ways to have more accessible and affordable housing.
Thank you for your question, Councilmember Cummings. Chair Lilligren, is it okay for me to go ahead and respond? Perfect. So we actually, this Edina Affordable Housing Partnership has opened the door to our kind of imagination and creative ways that we can do things. And our partners in LCA have already started to provide us some really cool information with ways that we could think about partnering with other cities and approaching other cities and saying, hey, look at this cool thing we're doing with Edina and that we've done. Do you have any interest? So it's certainly on our radar. We've also had some informal conversations with county partners to say, this is something that we're trying to do. What are your thoughts? And when we met with a recent county, they talked about cities that had some high affordable home ownership or affordable housing goals kind of on their city plans as well. So I think it's a wonderful idea, and good to know that our thoughts internally are tracking already with what you would like to see us doing, because I think it is a wonderful opportunity for us to continue to explore.
Can I just make a follow-up?
Member Cummings, yeah, please.
Thank you. Thank you for that. I think, you know, there is much public will, there's much political will. I'm glad to hear that we're pursuing that. I think that everybody agrees we have to think outside of the box. We have to do things differently. It's an ongoing problem and it will continue. But I think as globally as we can look and as creatively as we can look, because all of you have such creative, wonderful minds in figuring out how we can do these partnerships and do them in a new way and really sort of achieve the goals that all of us are looking toward achieving. So thank you for that. Thank you for your work on this. This looks great. So as I look at this, and maybe I read this wrong, but in the business item, so it looks like if we sell those off, it would be approximately $1 million of funding, correct? And that would be supplemented by reserves of an additional 800 or so. So it would be about 2 million. Is that correct?
I mean, and the numbers that we provided are really estimates too, because like Councilmember Chambliss was saying, this is such a volatile housing market right now. So if we were to say, you know, if we were to sell now and we can't find something, it is possible that then all of a sudden the housing market turns and interest rates with the feds kind of impact the housing market and then housing prices fall. I mean, it's such a tricky balance, but yes. And we also will, of course, make sure that there is no financial impact or a repayment that would be required before we would move forward.
Yeah, thank you for that clarification. I just wanted to make sure that I was understanding sort of the funding that is anticipated, but in this market, who knows what tomorrow may bring. It could be altogether different. And thank you. Thank you for that information. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilmember Cummings.
Thank you, Councilmember. I have in queue Councilmembers Johnson, then Bento, then Wolf. Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Stephanie, for this report. So a couple of things. This housing market's not going to change for a long time. The rates are still low. For those of us who've been around for a while, remember when they were in the teens, 20%? So, even at 3 or 4%, it is still quite a bargain, although the folks who are used to the 2s and 3s, they'll think, oh my God, they're so high, they're not. Our supply is still extremely low, and it's even more so at this price range. So these will fly off the market and do very well. And when we go out to purchase, it's still going to be a hot market because we're trying to purchase, again, in an affordable range to a degree, and hopefully we'll get other partners in to help offset that. So there will be trade-offs, but I don't think market's going to change anytime soon, which is really part of our long-term problem when it comes to housing for all people, and especially affordable housing. I think that the estimates on these are good on paper, but they're going to be extremely high. I can tell you, I bought my townhome 2 years ago in the lower price range, believe it or not, as it relates to affordable today. And I just got my property valuation notice for payable in 2023, and it is doing much better than the stock market, and by a lot. So, be prepared for, obviously a bidding war, things like that. Couple of questions. So are we going to do we have to list it through special means since we're a government agency, or do we hire an agent? How does that work? And I'll just wait for the answer on that, and then I have just a couple follow-ups.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Johnson. Yes, so the real estate we've been working closely with our real estate division, and what they are recommending is that we will likely hire a real estate agent to make the properties available for sale. I know that the real estate work unit is working through kind of a broader council policy, but for now, that's more long-term. For now, they recommended that we would hire an external real estate agent to be able to make those units available for sale.
And just, I'm not sure if we'd hire the same agent, probably looking at several agents to choose from for all of them, or if you're looking at agents that maybe have expertise in each market, but hopefully we aren't paying top dollar on the rates, because I know that's negotiable too. And then are we able to put covenants or restrictions on these units so that, and I'm just going to say things, and I'm not saying it's right or wrong, but do we want these to be owned by people instead of being purchased by landlords, property owners, people from out of Minnesota that, swoop in and buy these things up and then keep them in a rental housing portfolio? Or is there a way that we can try to work within the market conditions we have to ensure that, homeowners, whether it's, I'm sorry, my dog saw a squirrel, trying to just keep this in either first time home buyer or whatever, because they're still going to be affordable.
Thank you for the question, Councilmember Johnson. I think one interesting consideration, and I completely appreciate the point, is that a lot of these associations are probably going to require that a homeowner purchases the unit because of the rental, like non-homestead versus homestead association rules, that a homeowner would need to purchase it, and just because of a lot of the restrictions that the associations have. But it's certainly something that I'm going to make note of, because I guess I don't know, I can't speak for the real estate department, but I would imagine, like, let's say there's a bidding war and we have 10 offers in front of us, and we can very clearly see that 2 are kind of these larger firms that we all hear of, right? And then the third is a homeowner, just a non-company name. I think it's certainly something that we should be mindful of. So I'm going to make sure that I write that down.
And Mr. Chair, as a follow-up to that, Stephanie, we might not have the ability because we're selling government property, and you might have to go to the highest bidder. That's why, I know in my former role in Plymouth, you don't have a lot of leeway because it's taxpayer dollars, right? So that's why maybe some of that creativity that Councilmember Cummings was talking about, you can try to figure out how to do that. I would also say, having owned several properties and owning one right now where this HOA was created in the late 80s, there are very few rules that govern that. I think as multiple condos and townhome units were put together, I think a lot of those changes and restrictions came later on, but I wouldn't assume that there are any covenants within the HOA, because and I'm not saying that rentals can't be great. My neighborhood has rentals in my neighborhood and it's wonderful, but I know that home ownership is something that this council is really working on, especially for diverse populations. So anything I personally would love to see, a family get in there and own that, or folks get in there and own that. And that would be my only preference, if there's a way to legally do that. Again, I appreciate all the work you guys are putting in on this. These were purchased at the time, at the rate it was going up, but they're a steal. So when they do hit the market, it's going to be fast and furious, and hopefully we're helping some more people along the way, and they're not just going out to, investors. So that's kind of my thoughts on it.
Thank you, Councilmember. Further discussion, Councilmember Vento.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I too live in a townhome complex, and my HOA dates back to the late 1980s, and they've done a lot of updating on it. My question has to do with when we get to the purchasing point. Does the real estate department spend a lot of time looking at the HOA documents before they purchase? I'm guessing they do. Because I know that HOA fees are going up in a lot of associations, and I think some of it may be driven by the hot market and the desire to have those townhome owners who want to sell have townhomes that they can compete with. So I would encourage, if the real estate folks, to really keep an eye on those HOA documents, because we're going to see varying changes in the actual HOA fees as well as special assessments. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilmember. Further discussion, Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Since I'm not on the housing group, I feel like I missed out on some of the background on this. And so I'm trying to understand what sort of rules were problematic for people.
Sure. Thank you for your question, Councilmember Wolf. There's been a variety of reasons that we want to update the portfolio, and I'll kind of touch on a handful of them. One is just a rebalance to get some larger units, and specifically to grow our single-family home portfolio for a variety of reasons. But some of the association issues that we've run into is some of the families in our associations have been identified as council-owned properties, right? Because it's very easy to look, and you can see that the council owns the property. Consequently, we have had a lot of conversations with townhomes regarding if there is excessive garbage in a dumpster, let's say, right? Maybe the council gets billed for it first, or a property management company will get billed for it first, and then we contact, and then we have it ends up being a larger conversation to say, well, what happened? The tenant is saying that this isn't theirs. Well, another homeowner is saying that it was them. And so these constant conversations. And since that, when families are leaving their unit, and we are having conversations about the reasons that they're leaving, in 2 of the units that are on the PowerPoint, it has been because they're just uncomfortable living there. As one of their primary reasons. We actually just sent out our 2022 FOP residential survey to ask everybody in our council-owned units to give us an update. What's been going on? How are your interactions with us? What are things that you want to tell us? What kind of supports can we give you? What's been happening in your world? Because in COVID, life stood still for a little bit. And so we're anxious to get those results back too, because that might feed into some of this discussion of what are people missing? Oh shoot, I love living in the council-owned properties, but I wish I could live in this area, or I wish my house had this. And that will help to maybe also provide some framework for what we're doing with this next initiative. But I would say that a lot of the issues that we've identified related to the association and the interactions our residents have had with the associations have come out of discussions we've had with residents upon departure, or throughout when they're being assessed association fines, or other emails that have come through identifying our resident as having been problematic when the resident is saying, I'm not sure what I did. I don't understand.
Okay, so I mean, I don't want to rule out townhouses in general because they're more, we can get more of them
Mhm.
for the dollar than we can of single family homes. And not everybody wants to take on the role of mowing a lawn and all of that sort of a thing. So I just want to make sure we're not giving up on townhomes because they need to be a decent part of our portfolio for cost and maintenance reasons. Because you know, especially if you have a disabled resident, you're not going to say, "Yeah, take your wheelchair out and figure out how to mow the lawn." You know. um, just my thoughts, but I certainly support getting rid of these smaller units where people are not happy, obviously. Um, but I also want to recognize that every single family neighborhood has its own little culture, even if it doesn't have a homeowners association, and you got to find one that suits you, you know, regardless of who you are in a neighborhood. So finding places where people feel like they're going to fit in is, if anything, more important than the distinction between single family or uh, townhome units. I have a friend who moved into a neighborhood because he wanted a 3-car garage and hated it because he liked to change his own oil, and he was a hunter and liked to, you know, process his own meat and stuff. And the rest of his neighborhood did not like it very much that he was doing those things, and so they moved. But yeah, that's all. I just want to make sure that we're not losing the affordability part by focusing only on single family.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Cummings, is your hand up again?
It's
Councilmember
a
Cummings.
new question. Thank you, Mr.
Well,
Chair.
and then, yeah, 1 second. Councilmember Bento, is your hand up again, or okay, perfect. Councilmember Cummings, then
Okay.
Councilmember Bento, and then Councilmember Mousse.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm wondering what kind of strategies the Met Council can employ as far as competing with these large investment firms that we keep hearing about, who come in and snap up really many of the single family homes that we are all looking at purchasing as well. I know it's certainly been in the news a great deal, and I know that in the city of Hopkins it's a huge concern because we have more of the affordable housing that these firms can come in and they can offer ask or over ask, all cash, you know, close in 2 weeks kind of thing. 60 Minutes did a really alarming report on that last night. And of course, they see it as doing society a great favor by snapping things up, and that many people want to rent and not own, and et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, so I'm just wondering what kind of strategies can the Met Council employ? Because again, they are positioned to act really, really quickly. And at least in my term here on the Met Council, we're not always positioned to act as quickly, perhaps, as a private investment firm with lots of flexibility. So what can we do to compete?
Thank you, Councilmember. I will say we actually had great success in the Edina Affordable Housing Partnership. We are also a cash buyer, and as soon as our real estate partner, Cindy Boyce, would let us know that there was a property available, or we also worked with the city of Edina and another agency as they were identifying potential homes for purchase, we would generally go same day or the next day. Would be like, drop everything, we're going, and head on out. And we would have someone come. I'm certainly not qualified to determine whether or not the foundation is good or the water heater has been replaced. I don't have that skill set, but I would bring someone with me, and we would walk the property, review everything, and then generally make an offer that day if we were interested. And I think there was just one where we did not end up getting the property, but other ones we did, because I think we are kind of a strange version of those quick investors right now, oddly enough, because we are also cash, and I basically run. When Cindy tells me it's time to go look at a property, we run out the door and organize quickly because you have to right now. You're exactly right. The market is too competitive. And so we've been moving quickly and found some success, thankfully, because the people that we're bringing out with us to go see the properties have housing backgrounds and housing inspecting backgrounds. They're able to look and see any deficiencies that they're seeing off the bat. And so we can avoid that inspection contingency period. And we can just offer, because we're kind of having an inspector out there with us at the time of the showing.
Thank you. Can I make a follow-up, Mr. Chair? Comment?
Please.
I hope that we are also being really clear about the audience that we are trying to serve, because before we go out or when we go out, I think that there are many people now, again, the public will and understanding of how huge this housing issue is. And I think there are people that are socially and morally aware who are willing to perhaps, weigh one against the other and say, you know what, this is the direction that I want to go. So I would encourage you, if you're not already, to be really upfront about what we are trying to do to tackle the issue of affordability in the metro area. And now I will be quiet. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. Councilmember Vento. Councilmember, I think you're muted.
Yeah, you'd think I'd figure it out after 2+ years. Stephanie, I was just going to ask, I'm assuming that we go through the association rules with folks moving into these townhomes so that they know the lay of the land, per se?
So thank you, Councilmember Vento. So we go through our property management company does all of our move-ins, goes through the lease, goes through everything super extensively. I think sometimes it's the intangibles, and a lot of it too is our outreach and special initiatives team is working on ways that we can better support our family affordable housing program families as well too, right? So do we need to do more home visits? Do we need to, what kind of services and support do we need to offer the families once they move in? I think that this survey that we're doing is going to tell us a lot. We've updated a couple questions at the end, which are more of those open-ended questions, not to ask, what do you need from us? Do you need help with budgeting? Do you need help with, are you looking at home ownership? Not everybody wants home ownership, and that's okay, but are you looking for A, B, or C, and kind of really trying to target in and focus our efforts on not things that we think our families want from us, but rather, what are you telling us you want? If 60% of the families that we serve are saying we want help with budgeting for bigger purchases, not just the day-to-day, but how do I get to said bigger purchase, then that's what we want to focus our efforts on. And so I'm excited, and maybe at some point I can come back. You guys might get sick of all of my info items and share with you what we learned about the family affordable housing program and the cool things that come out of the survey, because I'm excited to see what the families that we're serving, what they share with us and what they want, because we too often, I think, make decisions for people and don't take the time to listen. And so I'm excited to kind of see what comes out of that survey.
Mr. Chair, Stephanie, I want to assure you, we're not going to ever get sick of you or let you not come back. So don't even go there. But I really do want to make a pitch for folks may not realize how important those rules are. Mm-hmm. And if they hear them at the beginning of the process, along with everything else that they're hearing, it's going to be pretty overwhelming. And a lot of it's going to be things that just kind of go right over their heads because it's not relevant to that beginning process. They're worried about getting in and getting settled in and making sure the bills are paid. And Councilmember Wolf triggered something for me. I too don't serve on the committee, so I feel like I've missed part of the conversation as well. But I think that the townhome advantage is one that we really ought to keep in mind for folks who are seniors. I'm in the crowd that doesn't want to mow a lawn anymore. I don't want to be worrying about going out and shoveling. And with that being the fastest growing portion of the population age-wise, we're going to have an increased number of seniors who are going to be looking for the convenience of townhomes. So let's keep them in the roster, because I think they're going to be increasingly popular. Thanks.
Councilmember, can I make a comment, or Chair Lilligren?
One
thing that I think is I think you're exactly right. And maybe what we do is we explore those kind of like single level living townhomes. One of the townhomes that is on the list in Eden Prairie you can't enter the unit without going through at least half a flight of stairs. So half a flight up, or you go through the back and you go through a half a flight in the back. And so, and you kind of have a little landing and then go up and then up again. And so there's just so many stairs in that unit that what the property management company for that particular unit has shared with me is people with mobility issues don't want the unit. People with young children don't want the unit because there's too many things that can happen with their young children with all those stairs, or just the general idea of like carrying a bag of groceries up all the stairs every time you want to do like the basic day-to-day living. And so I think it's a good idea. Well, the idea of kind of maybe even a single level living townhome or minimal stairs.
Thank you. And cue our council members Muse and then Councilmember Johnson. Councilmember Muse.
Thanks, Chair Lilligren. I just wanted a quick comment to Councilmember Johnson's earlier comment. I totally agree with her that prioritizing large families is super helpful, and it's a real right policy to do. But also, I would like to see if we can legally even go further and only sell to first-time home buyers of color. We know, we have one of the, worst homeownership disparity in the nation. If there's a way to do legally that, I will definitely support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember. And Councilmember Johnson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Councilmember Muse and I are thinking on the same lines. So again, I've participated, especially in my previous role at Prosperity's Front Door, and work with the Home Ownership Opportunity Alliance, and they really do focus. It's just a wonderful cohort of professionals in the real estate industry and nonprofits who are working very, very hard to make sure that people of color that are looking to buy their first home have opportunities to do so. So there's a bunch of, new money that's coming in from banks to do just that. And, this group is, again, they're real estate professionals, lenders, people in the private sector, public sector, people of color, are the predominant majority of this group, and they're super experts in this very thing that we are trying to accomplish. If they knew that we had these units that we're going to be putting on the market, I can tell you they've got people that they've been working with in the pipeline to get them credit worthy, ready to purchase, all of the things that some folks just need a little more time on than maybe the ready market that's out there. There's some awesome down payment assistance, I believe, and support for folks like this too. So and I know, again, there's probably rules, regs, and laws that we have to deal with because we're a government agency and you don't get to just do what you want like as a private homeowner. But if there's any way to, work with that group and let them know this is happening, this is the very sweet spot that they're looking for, their clients and folks that they're trying to help to have a shot with. So I just worry that we put them on the market. There's still wonderful affordable homes in wonderful communities, and they're going to get snapped up and not be serving the very people that potentially the very people that we're trying to serve. And again, just to the HOA rules, they are what they are. You got to be ready to live in an HOA. Most of it is designed to keep things clean and orderly. But culturally, it can really be very off-putting to some people who aren't used to everybody's doing it the same, and your children can't leave their trike out, and your garbage has to be inside your garage. So, unfortunately, that's probably where, the white culture, the dominant culture has put rules in place that feel comfortable to, certain group of people and maybe not more generally to other people as we try to diversify our neighborhoods. So, really to the points that were made earlier, helping people to understand why they're there and what they're there for, so that in the case that we've seen with the couple of the properties we have, people can better work themselves into the neighborhood and not have neighbors picking on them all the time at every little infraction, because that's what drives people out. That's why they're unhappy, and that's what's happening. So I just, again, hope and pray that after having these, in our portfolio all these years, they're still very affordable, that somehow we can turn this into, paying it forward to other people who really deserve a chance right now.
Thank you, Councilmember. Further discussion? Councilmember Wolf. Oh, I'm sorry, Ms. Paulson, did you want to make a response?
I was just going to mention to Councilmember Johnson that we continue to explore the voucher home ownership program, and I just had another meeting about it today in the way that we can move that forward. So hopefully I'll be able to come back with another kind of update for you, or someone from the HRA will be able to come back with an update, because it's certainly a priority that we continue to move that forward this year also.
Thank you, Ms. Paulson. Further discussion? Councilmember Wolf.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to point out that while other organizations can work on a racial basis on who they want to help, it's illegal for us to discriminate based on race in any direction on who buys our units. That's, I mean, it's against federal law to decide who's going to buy your house based on race.
And Mr. Chair, point of clarification. I agree. In fact, it's illegal for everybody to do that. That's why when you work with groups, they can determine who their clients are. And you don't know the race of people when they're looking to purchase your homes, right? So we've got to make sure that we follow all the rules and totally support that.
Thank you, council members. Seeing no further discussion, Ms. Paulson has recommended that we authorize the sale of 5 family affordable housing programs and a series of related actions to do that. Is there a motion to approve, please?
Wolf moves approval.
Thank you, Councilmember. Is there a second? Second.
Musa seconds.
Thank you, Councilmember. Discussion on the motion. Any discussion? Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Yes, Chair Lilligren, and I see Councilmember Lindstrom has joined us, so I will include him in the roll.
Welcome,
I'll
Councilmember.
start with Councilmember Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musse,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That item carries, and thank you, Ms. Paulson, for your work and for the report and for steering us through that excellent conversation. Our next agenda item is 2022-34. It is a joint committees item. It is our 2022 budget amendment, the April budget amendment. And Heather Aagesen-Huebner is here to present. Welcome, Ms. Aagesen-Huebner.
Good afternoon, Chair and Council members. Again, Heather Aagesen-Huebner, the Director of Finance and Administration for Community Development and Metropolitan Transportation Services. So tonight I'm before you requesting to amend our operating, pass-through, and capital programs. So we'll start with the operating side of our budget. We're requesting to carry forward just over $1.6 million in projects that were in our 21 operating budget, but not fully expended. This includes $1.4 million to preserve naturally occurring affordable housing and just over $200,000 for the Climate Action and Resiliency Plan. Basically what happened is we didn't expend that money in 21. Those funds built reserves, and we're just asking you to program those in the 22 budget. We're also asking for very modest adjustments of about $6,000 each in the Metro HRA and community development programs to reflect increases in the interdivisional cost allocations. For those of you that sit in other committees, this is just a standard adjustment that we're asking for in all of the divisional budgets. In the pass-through budget, I'm excited to say that we're asking for a $2 million transfer from the general fund to the local housing incentive account to fund the home ownership pilot project that Tara and the LCA program have been talking to you about and have also been talking to the management committee about as part of the Council 22 strategic initiatives. Those funds will be awarded through the 2022 grant award cycle. And just a little bit of mechanical background for you. There's a whole slate of projects that the management committee and council have heard. Most of those projects are going to reside in the general fund, which RA manages, just because of functionally the way this sits in a pass-through account and we need it in our program to award the grant funds. That's why you're seeing it kind of being brought in as a standalone item in our committee. On the capital side, we're requesting to transfer $100,000 of Family Affordable Housing Program operating fund reserves to the HRA capital program. And this is a planned move that was in the adopted CIP. So as just a brief reminder, there are large kind of renovation type projects that we want to manage for our council-owned housing on the capital side of our budget. So what this is asking you to do is we build reserves from our rental income and we're just transferring those from the operating reserves to the capital reserves. And those will be used for large projects to help maintain the assets. It's going to be things like replacing all the windows in a home, not a single window, or replacing an entire roof. We're also removing, moving to the capital side, continuing on the capital side, we're removing about $15.5 million in parks projects from the capital program. These projects are complete. All the funds have been expended. And this amendment also includes a number of capital projects listed as administrative adjustment section. You see these almost every budget amendment, but as a reminder, these are items that don't formally require your action, but we want to make sure we're sharing with you what those are for transparency. Parks implementing agencies have identified state bond and legacy projects in accordance with state statute and consistent with master plans that have been approved by both MPOSC and the council. Some of these adjustments are projects that are complete and they're reallocating some unused funding that you'll see them program in future projects that'll be in this administrative adjustment section. I do want to note the administrative adjustment section does also include 2 new acquisition projects for Blakely Bluff and North Creek, and the CDC and the council have already individually approved these projects at the recommendation of MPOSC in December 21 and 22. So while the projects look like they're new, the actual award of that grant has happened in a separate action, and this is just moving money from kind of the high level undesignated program account to those specific projects. This budget amendment supports the Thrive outcome of stewardship through responsible planning and management of resources for the Community Development Division and Regional Parks. And I'd be happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Thanks, Heather. Questions from committee members? Any questions? Hearing none, Ms. Aagesen-Huebner proposes that the Metropolitan Council authorize the 2022 Unified Budget Amendment as indicated and in accordance with the tables attached to the staff report. Is there a motion, please?
Johnson moves.
Thank you. A second?
Seconded by Chambliss.
Thank you, Councilmember. Any discussion on that motion? Any discussion? Hearing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Boussaint,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That motion carries. And we will move on to our final business item and our final item on our agenda today. It's 2022-76. It's update to our regional planning policy 1-2 That's the affordable housing policy. And Director Barajas will present. Welcome, Director Barajas.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, committee members. I have a housekeeping update to this housing policy that we have for you tonight that actually was generated or came to our attention when we were looking at the disposition that Stephanie brought in front of you today. We were looking through our policies and whether to see whether we had any guidance for how we might dispose of properties or if there was any direction in there. And we saw, wow, look at our affordable housing policy. It's old from 1998. So that's what brings us here to this today. Next slide, please. So what's in this affordable housing policy? And I just want to make it clear very upfront that this is different. These are our administrative policies. They are not what the direction that you find in Thrive MSP 2040 or the Housing Policy Plan, which are much broader about council's direction on the goals we're trying to achieve, where we want to focus our attention, what the issues of the day are. Rather, the council administrative policies really define who within the council is responsible for implementing the state, federal, or any applicable policy direction out of your adopted plans, who's responsible for implementing them and what levels of accountability we have. Within the affordable housing policy, this is directed by Minnesota statutes and our federal codes, and those three bullets there really indicate what they are. The Livable Communities Act, the Metropolitan Land Planning Act, and then the enabling legislation for the Metro HRA. Next slide, please. So as I mentioned, the last time this was updated was in 1998, and it made sense to have a policy since we didn't have one previously, given the passage of the Livable Communities Act. There were a number of changes to the Metropolitan Land Planning Act that really put more requirements on content for local comprehensive plans and more regular updates for those plans. There were updates to the Metro Housing HRA authorities as well as the Home and Consent Decree having been issued and us taking on some roles in our HRA. In looking at our policy that you'll see as the second attachment in the business item, and I apologize, I didn't have the labels on the attachments, but it's the policy that does not have the draft watermark on the back, and it's toward the end. You'll see that it doesn't fully articulate the Metro HRA's programs that we have. It really focuses on Section 8 and Section 8 alone. It also didn't articulate the role of planning for housing affordability in the region, mentioned it, but didn't have the full context of that. And then there's a number of just out-of-date references about reports or programs that we're not familiar with and we don't think exist any longer in any form. Next slide, please. So the revisions that we worked on, you'll see I didn't include a red line version because it's really would have been really messy and hard to see. So I just gave you sort of a before and after. But really, we more fully incorporated the council's planning roles related to housing, including references to the Land Planning Act and how those are incorporated. Included state-funded HRA programs as part of the work of the HRA, and then updated and corrected a number of references on our annual reporting that you'll see in the implementation and accountability section. We actually have a lot of annual reporting that we're required to do through Livable Communities, through our land planning responsibilities, as well as through United States Housing and Urban Development programs and state programs. Wherever we're receiving funding, we need to report on our administration of those funds. And then also provided direction related to our Family Affordable Housing Program and other programs about exploring additional funding opportunities as they become available, which we didn't have previously, that we should be doing that. But making that very clear that that's something that we do in our HRA. Next slide, please. So in sum, we just made those housekeeping adjustments to put us in the place of really updating this policy. There are some related, we updated a number of related references at the end as well, including related procedures. Just for your knowledge or for folks who aren't as familiar, the procedures really tell staff how to do the internal steps, what to do next, who to route it to, who needs to approve what. So I just wanted to make that clear, and that's not part of our update today, although we do need to update those procedures because they're nearly as old as the policy itself and have a lot of out-of-date references about positions that don't even exist any longer. So really generating some housekeeping work for us, but we're definitely cleaning that up in the background. So today I have before you the proposed action that the council adopt RF 1-2, Affordable Housing Policy version 3, which is shown in attachment 1 in your staff report. And I'm happy to take any questions you might have.
Thank you, Director Barajas. Questions on that report, committee members? Any questions? Seeing none, Director Barajas has recommended the action that the Metropolitan Council adopt RF 1-2 of the Affordable Housing Policy version 3 as shown in attachment 1 of the business item. Is there a motion
Make a motion to approve?
Thank you,
Second.
Councilmember Chambliss, and thank you, Councilmember Lindstrom. Any discussion on that motion?
Mr. Chair,
Yeah, please, Councilmember Johnson.
just want to thank you, Director Barajas, and your team for digging into this. You know, we're so busy doing the forward thinking day to day. And when you guys discover things, you know, you're like, yep, got to get into this. And it's just, you know, another important task that you're doing. And just again, the comprehensive knowledge that you all have to make sure that we, you know, get these things taken care of is super good. A lot of times it can be forgotten. And I'm really glad that you guys are looking forward, but also looking back and making sure that everything's the way it needs to be. So much gratitude. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Council Member. And when we opened this one, I saw that there are a number of other ones I also need to update, which I will slowly be bringing to you over the coming year.
Great. Thank you, Director Barajas. And I add my thanks to Councilmember Johnson for this work. Any further discussion on the motion? Any discussion? Seeing none, Michelle, please call the roll on the motion.
Yes, Chair Lilligren. Chambliss,
Aye.
Cummings,
Aye.
Johnson,
Aye.
Lilligren,
Aye.
Lindstrom,
Aye.
Musset,
Aye.
Vento,
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. That motion carries. And with that, we have completed our entire agenda. Michelle or Lisa, anything else for the committee tonight?
I don't have anything else.
Yep, I just want to say like the CDCs in April will be virtual, but then starting in May will be in person. So looking forward to that. So April 4th and April 18th will still be virtual.
Thank you, Michelle. And thanks
camera.
for
There you go.
all of your help and support through this virtual time. Great. Well, seeing no further business before this committee, we are adjourned.
Thank you.
Good
Have
night,
a good week,
everyone.
everyone.
Thank
Have a good
you.
evening.